What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the NutriSave podcast. I am Joey. I am here with Briggs, and we have college football playoff round one this weekend. So let's dive into it. And first thing we're going to start with is we saw how the top 12 teams in the field line up, and we're wondering a lot of conversation about the G6, whether the G6 deserves a bid, whether some of the teams that got in don't really have a shot to win the national championship. So we are going to start by going 12-1 on our contenders and pretenders. And first, we'll start off with number 12, James Madison. I'll say this. They haven't played anyone in the top 40. Maybe a top 50 team they've played is Louisville, but otherwise they haven't really played anyone. They lost to Louisville by 14. Now, they are one of the most physical G5 or G6 teams in the country, but they are not. They haven't gone through a baseline level of struggle that everyone else in the field, minus Tulane, has gone through. So we're gonna rank this on a scale of 1 to 10. 0 is no shot to win the national championship. 10 is this is the contender, and this is gonna be probably one of the final four in the national championship. I got 0 for James Madison. Even if they somehow beat Oregon and Eugene, I don't think they beat Texas Tech. So
I completely agree with you. I think that Oregon's going to end up covering the spread. I know we'll get to that here in a minute. But James Madison got in because Duke decided to play spoiler for the ACC. Now, we can argue all we want about whether or not G6 belongs and whatnot. Ultimately, I know we've talked about this. What if, and I know you've probably heard this before, but there's like a whole just G6 playoff. So we get the true top 12 teams in the country out of the Power Four. And then you have top 8 G6 teams go for their own playoff. Because realistically, you're not going to see them compete. We saw Boise State was probably the best G5, G6 team that we were ever going to see, which is Ashton Jeanty pretty much carrying the load for that. And that was the best fight they could put up, and they still got handled pretty easily by Penn State. So I don't know if the current model, and I mean, there's plenty of flaws to it, but I don't know if the current model and having the G5 have to be represented, I don't know if that's conducive to the product that we ultimately want at the end of the year.
I think a G6 playoff is certainly a conversation for in the off season. And you saw what happened with the TNT first round where they get the two G6 matchups because ESPN owns the right to all of it. There's people that won. There are networks that won it. So, anyways, I think there's definitely a thought. It's kind of like FCS. FCS makes their money in the playoffs. Like the FCS, right around now is where the FCS makes their money. Speaking of another G6 team, Tulane, number 11. They got beat by 35 by Ole Miss earlier in the season. I don't think they can physically match up, and we'll talk more about that in the previews for the games. I got them as another 0. I don't think there's a shot that they're able to win it.
I'm going to agree with you. They lost by, 35?
It was 45 to 10.
So 35. They lost by 35 the first time. While we don't know how Lane leaving is going to affect the Rebels, I don't think it's going to come anywhere. They might cover. I mean, I think it's a massive spread of 17 points.
It was 17 and a half the last time I looked.
17 and a half. Yeah, it's still right there. They might cover. I don't think there's any shot they win. And if they do, they have to go and play Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. So, I mean, tough road, but There's just no logical way I see them making. Especially you look at the UTSA game is the biggest like where we sit because when we see what happens when they kind of get off their rhythm. You look at the North Texas game, that was when they were on, but they're not going to be on against some of these top teams in the country. Ole Miss, Georgia, they'd be able to throw them off their game. And we saw what happened when Retzloff was making mistakes. It cost them big. They ended up losing by 2 scores at least to a UTSA team that was very middle of the pack in American.
All right, moving on to the juicy part. We have Miami at 10. They match up with Texas A&M. I think one of the bigger keys for Miami is Carson Beck can't be turnover prone. That requires more creativity in the offense and all that type of stuff. They have a top 15 run defense, though. And kind of what Ohio State did last year is be able to run the ball and stop the run. And I think that's the key. I think that's the only way you're going to have lasting success in the playoff in general, because I think all the conferences play a certain way. And they limited the unforced errors in the last stretch of the season, unlike they did against Louisville and SMU. And it kind of goes back to the turnover thing, is Carson Beck's thrown 10 interceptions this season. And I think for Miami to have a shot at winning the national championship, Carson Beck's got to be on it like he has been the last couple games. What I've seen from Carson Beck the last couple of weeks, I've been impressed with. But I put Miami at a 4. I think they got the worst draw of the teams that are playing in the first round that aren't playing G5 teams.
I have them at a 1. I think out of everyone in the playoff, they have the toughest road. They play A&M first in Kyle Field. Not an easy place to play. You can say it's a noon game, so a lot easier than it would be if it was a 7:30, 8 o'clock kick. Then you'd have to go and play Ohio State. Again, very tall task. Assuming Georgia wins and you beat Ohio State, then you'd have to go and beat Georgia. And then
Georgia or Ole Miss. I mean,
Ole Miss. Again,
if Ole Miss makes it that far, we're going to be thinking a lot different about Ole Miss if Ole Miss makes it that far.
And then in the national championship, you'd end up playing either Indiana, Bama, Oklahoma, Texas Tech, or Oregon. All of those teams, I think, would still be favored in a game against Miami. So I don't realistically think that they have a shot. Just tough stretch. I mean, if they had gotten to 12 or like something where they were on that top half of the bracket and they had a much easier road in, given I know that the 2 G5 teams were going to be 11 and 12 just because they weren't going to be top 14 or top 12 actually. So just unfortunate draw for them, but got to roll with the punches.
I think Miami needs a lot to go right for them. Like, they're going to have to force Marcel Reed into turnovers. But I think Miami would have a better shot at beating Bama or Oklahoma than they would Texas Tech. And I mean, they very easily could beat Texas Tech. I think it's a very somewhat similar stylistically matchup. They both played Notre Dame. Miami, I think, played better against Notre Dame than A&M did. And so, yeah, I look at it that way. I think Miami's got a better shot. Leading into it, you got Alabama. They're a very flawed team. Like, a flawed team is going to win the national championship, but Alabama has not had any sort of run game this entire year. They got to get back in the positive turnover margin. They've really been struggling with that over the last couple weeks. I think the only game out of the last 4 games that they've been positive is the Auburn game, and even then they still turned the ball over that game. And I think their kicking situation is also very not like great. So is that going to cost them? And then what about their health? You saw how much their injuries cost them against Georgia. I was doing some. I was looking at it earlier today. It looks like Cuevas and a couple of the other guys are going to be healthy for Oklahoma, but it's still concerning is how healthy are they? They Ty Simpson was rumored to have a severe back injury and he's playing through. So I got Alabama at a 3 just for a lot of the uncertainty, and I think they have more glaring inefficiencies than some of these other teams.
I have them at a 4. I think that if they can get healthy, a healthy Bama is a 4. If they're really not able to get healthy and they're trotting out a team that's just kind of held together with glue and duct tape, I think that's going to be closer to a 2. You mentioned the inability to run the ball, and I think that's going to be crucial this last kind of section of the season with the playoff. And then Ty Simpson has just not been the Ty Simpson we saw earlier in the year. That stretch of 4 games, he was unbelievable. And just kind of since the Oklahoma game, those last couple games, I mean, 6 sacks, 3 interceptions. It's just not.
Multiple fumbles.
Yeah, just the inability to hold on to the ball has not been kind of there for him. And so I don't know if that's something where it's like, hey, I don't. The teams may not have had too much film on him beforehand. I think this is his first like kind of big year as a starter for Alabama, and so now that he's played a full season. Defensive coordinators are able to go and like get a full game film on him. Be like, hey, this is what he's good at. These are his tendencies. Now they're able to kind of dissect him. And we saw even against Eastern Illinois, he didn't play the greatest. I mean, that was still a very rough game for him, and in Tuscaloosa too. So tall order ahead playing in Norman. I think it's doable for them, but down the road, I don't think it's looking good for the Crimson Tide.
Well, if he's well, one not having Cuevas has killed them in pass protection the last 2 weeks. Their pass protection has actually been a really big problem. They've had an injury on the offensive line. I think they've had a couple of them. Cuevas being hurting them. Brian Williams is nowhere to be found except in the first half of the SEC championship game. And is Simpson playing injured? This is something we're not going to find out until after Bama gets eliminated. But you speak of playing in Norman, it's going to be a tall task. The team in Norman, Oklahoma, does not have an offensive identity. Has not had one since Mateer got hurt. And I'm just going to assume Mateer is what he is at this point of the season. I think they forced him back too quickly. I do think the defense can springboard them. They have lived the last couple of games off of defense getting turnovers, defense not giving up more than like 17 points, and big plays. I don't think in one of these games 20 points will be enough, though. I think they're going to have to score with either Alabama or whoever else they play on their side of the bracket. I think they would play Indiana. Like Indiana's probably going to score more than 20 points on them. And if they don't, I don't know if Oklahoma's going to be able to move the ball. So I have Oklahoma a 3 as well. And yeah.
Yeah, I think Oklahoma and Bama have about the same percentage chance, in my opinion, of going there and winning it all. And I just think Mateer's looked completely different since the surgery. And they kind of had an offensive identity before he got injured, and after, I mean, it's just been kind of just not there. They've been very much a defensive team, just trying to rely on that to carry them to win. Mateer did throw for 318 against LSU, so it's promising. But I feel like he's turned more into Drew Brees since the surgery, where it's like he's not throwing it down the field as much as it's a lot of slants and crossing routes.
Well, his 318 in that game were due to a lot of it was rack, a lot of it was 40. I think they had like 4 or 5 40-plus yard plays. Both their touchdowns in that game were 45-plus yard plays. So they've been living and dying with the explosive plays the last couple of weeks. Santanega taking the ball down the field. That's how they beat the team they played before. The team they
Missouri.
played before LSU, yeah. So I just I don't see. I think their offensive identity is going to cost them at some point. If it's not against Bama, I think it'll cost them against Indiana.
And we saw how good Indiana's defense was against Ohio State, who has been one of the better offenses in the country. So, especially for both, if Bama is going to be a very one-sided or one-dimensional offense, if they're able to get past Oklahoma, then again, Oklahoma's a very good defense. I just don't think if Bama's going to be a one-dimensional team, there's no way they're going to be able to go through 2 straight rounds of some of the top defenses in the country just trying to pass it around.
Well, Alabama's also got a top. I think it's a top 10 pass defense in the country, top 15. So, moving on, we had number 7 Texas A&M. Marcel Reed cannot push. You saw it at the end of the Texas game. Marcel Reed cannot push. He can't press. And Texas A&M's at their best. Excuse me. When Marcel Reed is using his feet. He kind of pressed in that South Carolina game, which caused him to throw 2 or 3 interceptions. When Marcel Reed is using his feet, they're really well balanced on offense. That was a struggle.
Bell balance is pretty good.
Well balanced on offense. They're able to run it. They're able to spin it. And how explosive are their wide receivers? You kind of know what this A&M defense is. They've kind of given up explosive plays at times. They are one of the best sack teams in the country. I think they're the top 3rd down team in the country. So it's kind of the offenses. How much are they going to press? Because we obviously saw A&M is gettable. They didn't get to play 2 weeks ago in the SEC championship because of it. I have A&M at a 4 just because of their first round draw. And I think they need a lot to go right. I think they need Marcel Reed playing the best team that they've played since Notre Dame, throwing 2 interceptions on the final 2 drives of that game. That's something I can't get out of my head, and that's how Marcel Reed left the field against Texas and ended his regular season.
I have A&M at a 5. I'm very skeptical about the team as a whole. While they're good statistically, I'm kind of right there with the same thought process as JMU. They played pretty much the bottom of the SEC, and then when they played the decent teams, they lost. They have the win over Notre Dame. I'll give them that. But late in the season, you look at the South Carolina game, I get it was a tale of 2 halves, but it showed that while they were undefeated at the time, they weren't immortal. They definitely had some glaring issues on the back end, some tackling issues, and definitely the secondary looked, I don't want to say lost in the first half, but they were getting beat pretty easily. You had the 2 long touchdowns for South Carolina there. And if Carson Beck is able to not turn the ball over and they're able to just be efficient on offense, come away with points on most of their drives, I don't know how Texas A&M is going to react to having to play another decent team. We saw what happened last week, or not last week, but in their last game against Texas, it looked like they were like uncomfortable. Like they hadn't really settled into the game, and they just kind of looked off. And so I don't know how like playing at home may help with that, but I don't know if they're gonna get that in that rhythm per se against another one of the top teams in the country.
I do think Texas A&M got a good draw, though. I think they match up against Ohio State relatively well. Maybe I'm crazy, but I think they match up against Ohio State relatively well. I think it's going to be tougher beating Miami because I do worry about the Ohio State defense when it comes to outside runners, especially quarterbacks that can run. So I do think they got a solid draw. But speaking of another SEC team that's in, number 6 got Ole Miss. And kind of look at all the quarterbacks in the playoffs. Marcel Reed's been up and down. Ty Simpson's been up and down. Marcel Reed's been up and down. Carson Beck's been up and down. Mateer's been up and down. Trinidad Chambliss has been incredibly up all season. He's played. You haven't had a Trinidad Chambliss disaster game really this year. Not that I can think of. And so he's incredibly good at running the ball. He's led them to have a top 10 passing offense. I think the biggest worry for me with Ole Miss, I think Ole Miss would be probably like a 7 or an 8 if Lane was still there, but I have them as a 6 just because how does Kiffin leaving affect them? And how good is Pete Golding situationally in final 2 minutes, like clock management, substitutions, fourth downs, 2-point conversions, all these things. How is he situationally? I think we'll get a little bit of a taste of that against Tulane, which they got an incredibly good draw. They should be very happy the committee didn't punish them. Where if they were in Texas A&M spot, I would probably take Miami right now. But that's the only thing that worries me about Ole Miss. This will probably change if they go beat Tulane 45-10 again. So that's all I got on Ole Miss.
I couldn't agree with more with the Chambliss just being up all season. 4 of his last 5 games, he's thrown for north of 300. And again, threw for 315 against Oklahoma and threw for 360 in the Egg Bowl. So I think he'll be able to dice up that Tulane secondary pretty good. And then I think the big question, I know you've touched on this, is what is this team going to look like without Lane? And how, just in general, how focused are they on the game as opposed to just the whale of distractions that they've got going on within that facility with Lane leaving. Now, we've seen them kind of have the same reaction as Notre Dame had when Marcus Freeman was announced, when current head coach was announced. For some reason, his name just slipped my mind.
Pete Golding?
Yes. When he was announced, and you saw them kind of, both teams have very similar reactions. So I think it's good that they stayed in-house. Although it'll be very interesting to see. You usually see when they have their first, or when head coaches get their first head coaching job, you usually see that little growing pains era where they're kind of like, you see the mistakes that they're making. You just don't want those mistakes to end up being fatal.
I agree. Moving on, Oregon at number 5. I was not very high on Dante Moore coming into the season. He's found it. He's found it since, I think, starting in that Iowa game is really when he's like really came on. I know he didn't have a great game during that game, but he made the plays when he needed to. The health worries me a little bit. I don't think they're going to play any other guys against JMU, like Evan Stewart, Decorium Moore, the offensive lineman, and the various pieces that have been out for Oregon. I don't think they're going to play all those guys from all that I can see. We'll see when the injury report comes out this on Friday night. I think Oregon's far and away the best team in round 1, and they have easily the best path to get to the national championship. And does Dan Lanning now have them playing their best football after getting obliterated by Ohio State last year in the Rose Bowl. I was at that game. That game, they did not match up anywhere near as good as they did in the first matchup that last year. Did Dan learn from last year and able to get the boys like playing their best ball right now? So I think they do. I have Oregon at a 9. I think Oregon is far and away a contender for the national championship, and I think the Big Ten has the 3 best teams that are in the playoffs, or 3
I
of the best teams. Let me rephrase that: 3 of the best teams.
I'll accept that. I think Georgia's up there in the top 3, but I look at Oregon and you can play your guys, you don't play your guys. I don't think that's necessarily going to matter against JMU. But this, and you talk about in the whole conversation with the CFP and whether or not it's worth it going and playing the conference championship game, because if you win, then you get the draw that Indiana has, where it's like, you get the draw Indiana has where they have to play either Bama or Oklahoma. Yeah, see, yeah, you just screwed me up trying to text me there. Sent me a damn paragraph. And so where Oregon gets JMU and then probably the weakest or most unproven, because we haven't really seen what Texas Tech can do against non-Big 12 teams. I mean, everyone loves to talk about like the out-of-conference schedules. We haven't really seen Texas Tech against like a dominant Power 4 team yet. And BYU was the closest we got to that, and they handled BYU twice. But Oregon has played some of the top teams in the country. We know what they are. I don't know if we necessarily know what Texas Tech is, and Oregon may have the easiest path to a New Year's Eve bowl. I think the semifinals are on New Year's Eve. No,
Yeah.
January 9th.
No, they're the semis. Yeah.
They'll have I think they have the easiest path to the Peach Bowl, which is where they would be.
What is your rating for Ole Miss and Oregon?
Oregon,
In A&M.
Okay, so Oregon, I have it an 8 because we don't know what the injuries are. And given I don't think it matters for JMU, but it may start to matter against Texas Tech, and whether or not if guys come back too early, if they get hurt again, that may cause an issue. So I have them at an 8 because of the injuries. I think that because they have one of the easiest paths, and if they play Indiana again, I think Dan Lanning's going to have that team ready for revenge after losing by 10 in Eugene earlier this year. Ole Miss, I have it a 7. I think they have the chance. I think they have the guys there, but ultimately, I don't think they'll be able to get past Georgia. I think Georgia's playing the best football they can, kind of at the right time. And Kirby's proven it. He's one of 3 active head coaches. I mean, I know you love that stat with a national title. So he's been there, done that. He's got the experience. I think it's going to be hard to outcoach him, especially with Golding on the sideline. I think it's going to come down to a coaching duel. I think Kirby's going to just boat race him in that category. A&M.
I have them at a 4.
I think a 6.
Okay.
So you mentioned how they match up well against Ohio State. I think if they can get past Miami and get past Ohio State, I think they'll shape up well for the game against Georgia. I think they'll have proven to everyone and themselves that they're not fraudulent per se, and that they can hang around with some of the best in the country. I just don't know if I just don't know how they match up against that Georgia defense.
Good enough for me.
That's just to me, those guys fly around the field, and they've been pretty good. At least in the SEC championship, they're pretty good at getting to the ball quickly. And when you have someone like Marcel Reed, who's going to kind of try and extend a play, I think it's going to end up costing him. He's going to get sacked a couple of times, 4, maybe 5 times, where he's going to try and extend the play. And he's got a linebacker just coming down on him the entire time.
Talking about a hypothetical matchup almost a month from now. Anyway, moving on to another team in Texas, Texas Tech, number 4. Easily top 3 defense in the country. The other 2 are playing in this playoff. The thing with Texas Tech is, you kind of mentioned this earlier, they're not going to blow out their way to a natty. And Brigham Young, I always thought was a bad matchup for him. And I think Oregon matches up well for him, for example. They're not going to blow. So how do they perform against not Big 12 competition? Because they're not going to blow out their way to the natty. Kind of mentioned this earlier, where different conferences kind of play different styles of ball. Like the way Oklahoma shifted, I know they got a different head coach now, but the way Oklahoma shifted from Big 12 to SEC, they leave a lot of points on the field at times. Both those games against Brigham Young, which are the games that most people watched, those games against Brigham Young, they left a lot of points on the field. And that worries me for their offense. They have an awesome kicker, but touchdowns, you need to have more touchdowns than field goals in the playoffs, especially when you get in the red area. That's what concerns me about them, but I have them at an 8.
Texas Tech, to me, and I completely agree, they're not going to blow anyone out. But my concern is you play Indiana. I don't know if they score more than 14. They play Oklahoma. I don't know if they score more than 14. Like, I just don't know if the offense is there, and I think you're going to need the offense in some of these games to go out and win the game for you. I just don't know if Behren Morton and that offensive unit are capable of doing it. I think their defense, you take the defense and put it on any other team, I think it's a national title team. I just don't know if their offense is anywhere close to as capable as their defense is. And when it comes to winning games, we've seen them put up points, but I don't think BYU's like a top defense. They didn't look like it, certainly in the 2 matchups. Although I think they held them pretty decent in the red zone, which scares me. And I know you mentioned it, leaving points on the board. You can't afford to leave points on the board against Oregon. You can't afford to leave points on the board against Indiana or Alabama or Oklahoma. And so I think when it comes down to that, having to kick all those field goals, having to go for it on 4th and 1 to whatever, 4th and short, that's going to end up costing them in the long run. And I think they're going to end up possibly being on the wrong side of a 2-3 score game where it's like their offense just wasn't able to do anything and their defense can only hold on for so long.
I think Texas Tech is literally Oklahoma with an offensive identity, personally. And in this hypothetical matchup against Oklahoma, I think scoring 14 would be enough if you're Texas Tech. I don't think Oklahoma's scoring more than 7.
I think
maybe
Oklahoma's
10.
got a lot. I think Oklahoma's offense is better than Texas Tech's.
I think you're dead wrong.
You know,
as it is today.
I hope.
As it is today.
I hope they play each other.
As it is today. As it is today, there's a reason Oklahoma is 8 and Texas Tech is 4.
Texas Tech won the Big 12.
Exactly. Oklahoma did not win anything. They beat Alabama off of +3 turnover margin. Oklahoma, I think, is the worst Power 4 team in this field. I think far and away they're the worst Power 4 team in this field. I don't think it's relatively close. Especially if you put all these teams healthy, I don't think it's close.
So now, hold on. if you put all these teams healthy and you go back to the start of the season where Oklahoma had somewhat of an offensive identity, how does that change things?
I think that's far. My thing is I don't know if Mateer is what he is because of the hand surgery, or I don't know how much that changes. Like Mateer's played throughout this season. I'm more referring to getting guys back. I understand your point, but I'm talking about getting guys back. Mateer has played. I think they rushed him back way too quickly. I think they should have let him heal. And I think that was their mistake. But they have Mateer, and I just think he is what he is at this point. All right, moving on. I don't have a lot to say. We'll hurry this up. I don't have a lot to say. Go quickly here. Georgia, I have us at 10. Playing their best ball right now. Pass rushes improved in the last few weeks. I think they're going to need an elite performance from Gunner like they had against Ole Miss and like they had against Tennessee. And Kirby dialing up special teams is a huge advantage for Georgia. I think you trust Kirby and his staff a lot more than you do pretty much every other staff in the country.
I'm just going to go ahead and say this. The last three teams I have all as 10s. They're like the top. I realistically could see paths very easily for all three of them to get the national title. I think Georgia's run game needs to continue humming. Their defense needs to continue humming. And if Gunner Stockton can hit that next level and kind of go back to being somewhat of that dual threat quarterback, because we saw him we saw him tear up the Ole Miss defense in that shootout in Athens. And if we can get that version of Gunner that can go out, run for 7-8 yards, and then throw for 30 down the field, I think it'll be hard to find a team to beat them.
All right, moving on. Like you said, Ohio State's 10. I have Ohio State as 10 as well. Defense hasn't given up more than 17. The explosiveness on offense will be huge. Indiana stopped that. I think Indiana flipped that on its head. I think that's why one of the reasons Ohio State lost. Their offensive game plans have to be better. I just saw them put 10 points up again, and granted it's the best team in the country, but their offensive game plans need to be better, and they need to really be working. And they're not short of motivation. Especially on offense. They are not short of motivation. So they absolutely should be motivated to blow out whoever, not saying they will, to blow out whoever they need to go on a run like they did last year. Anything on Ohio State before we move on?
No, you're the resident Ohio State fan here.
Indiana, I also have as a 10, like you. Indiana has like a 7% blue chip ratio, but they are far and away I think that's the lowest of the top 10 teams. Far and away, best team at execution in the country. By far. They execute at an elite level. Sig might just be top 3 college football coaches all time in the next 5 years. Like this is what Sig's done has been insane. I absolutely trust Sig in these playoffs, and I don't think the game against Notre Dame last year was much of a blowout as it is. Got a better team this year. And they are extremely balanced in everything they do. They're really good on special teams. They're balanced on offense and defense. So not much there. I think Indiana has one of the best chances to win a national championship this year.
I think we're seeing the making of a dynasty. I think that Cignetti is the closest you're going to get to Saban in the 2010s, where Saban prided himself, or pride. I don't know if that's a past tense for pride. Prides.
Had pride.
Yeah, they took a lot of pride in the ability to execute in the small things, no matter what the score was, no matter what the situation was. It was you do your job. If everyone does their job to the best of their ability, they were going to win games. And that's something that we've seen Indiana do all year this year. We saw him do it last year, and Cignetti has proven that in this era of transfer portal and NIL, you can take a bunch of these rejects, these not flashy names, and make them into a just monster of a team. It's unbelievable what we've been able to see Fernando do. It's unbelievable what we've seen the defense do. The special teams had huge games this year. So just seeing all of that come together into one cohesive unit. And I mean, I don't think it could have happened to a better group of people either. Like Signetti, I think is a pretty like down to earth good dude. And then you look at Mendoza, and I mean, after he won the Heisman, just seeing the way he carries himself, seeing just kind of how he acts, very telling of the program, very good reflection on the university as a whole. I mean, all of these players represent the schools they're at. And I think this football team does it better than almost anyone in the country.
I will say, I don't think Signetti has proven you can do this with a bunch of rejects. I think this is a I think the whole Signetti conundrum is a unicorn, and no one's able to replicate that. I just think Signetti is that good. So I do want to address that. Like Signetti's made everyone's life in the coaching world harder. Moving to a game in the Big Ten, and the only team, or well, okay, never mind. James Madison goes to Eugene, 12 versus 5. I'll rattle off my points and then I'll let you have the floor. We'll make our predictions after for spread and game for the close ones after we preview the game. For James Madison, I said this earlier, tend to be one of the most physical groups of 6 teams. Number 2 run defense. Oregon has the 14th best rush offense. They have the number 5 rush offense. Oregon is 20 in run defense. They have got to stop the run and run the ball. They need to slow this game down. James Madison is at their best when Alonzo Barnett is running the football along with throwing it. Top 20 in third down offense and defense. But lost by 14 to the only Power 4 team they've played. They had the lead at halftime. It was 7-6, and then they got the lead 14-6. So I think they'll be able to compete for at least the first quarter, but I don't think they'll be able to keep going. Oregon is incredibly battle tested. Probably played one of the tougher big schedules in the Big Ten. They're top 15 in turnover margin. Like I said earlier, Dante Moore has been up, and health is a concern, but I don't think that really matters. I will take Oregon to cover the 20.5, I think it is. 21.5.
I think it's 20.5.
We will call it 20.5 for official picks.
21. It is moved to 21 even.
I'll still take 21. I'll take the push. But like I said, James Madison kind of has to stop the run the ball, shorten this game, compact this game, and limit possessions, because if they can keep this game 14-14 or even 21-21 midway through the third quarter, they're in a great spot. Need to limit possessions because Oregon's going to get theirs on offense. And I'm worried about James Madison on pass defense. But like I said, you got to shorten the game, compact possessions, and hope you can scale up, because typically when you play that level of competition, your running games can't scale up to that high level of competition, and that's what I'm worried about for James Madison. Like I said, give me Oregon to cover, win, and go play Texas Tech.
I think if James Madison is going to win, the way they have to do it, again, shorten the game, limit the amount of drives that Oregon's going to get, play a clean game, minimize penalties, minimize things that can hurt you, and then don't turn the ball over. If you can do that, I think you have a shot. You're going to need to be efficient offensively. You're going to need to stay on the field on third downs. You're going to need to offensively on third downs. And then defense, you're going to need to get some early stops. If that offense for Oregon gets rolling early, I think it's going to be a snowball effect, and you're just not going to be able to stop it. So I've got Oregon covering the spread.
Yeah, I think an early turnover, kind of like what we prescribed for BYU to win the Big 12 championship, they're going to have to flip the critical factors. Oregon's top 15 in turnover margin, so you're going to have to flip the critical factor. If you can get a turnover early and get an early lead, you have a chance, kind of like what they did against Louisville. They just couldn't keep it in the second half. I think eventually gravity will take over the game. It's where I go. On to the next, Alabama, Oklahoma, primetime Friday night. The 9 versus the 8 seed. Oklahoma won 23-21. First matchup in Tuscaloosa. This one is in Norman. For Alabama, they had the offensive production was as we expected. I think we recorded the preview for this game, and I was very confident Alabama was going to win this game. The difference in the game really was the reason they lost the game. They were -3 on turnovers, and they missed the field goal at the end of the half. And so their offensive production was good. Their production's kind of tailed down in the last couple of weeks. And so their injuries on offense kind of hurt. If Bama can get back to normal form, they're 18 in pass offense. Oklahoma is 44 in pass defense. We've seen the secondary get exposed. Now, Oklahoma's number 2 in sacks. So if Alabama can't protect Ty Simpson at all, it's going to be a moot point. They have a top 10 run defense. Oklahoma's 83 in pass offense. So it kind of relies on Oklahoma to run the ball, which they couldn't really do earlier in the season. So if Bama literally brings the blueprint to the first game and takes out the turnovers, I think they win this game pretty easily. Without for Oklahoma, Oklahoma's offense, I'm concerned because they weren't really generating much other than the turnovers. I think they scored 17 points off the turnovers. Their 8th and 3rd down defense relied on the big play, as I said earlier. Now, the longest play Bama gave up against Georgia was 19. Bama even with them being down, they haven't been really hurt by the big play. And Oklahoma's at 100 in the hundreds in penalties and penalty yards. A little bit of advantage for Alabama. Alabama didn't really take any penalties when they played against Georgia. So if that is a positive sign, I will take Alabama to win this game in Norman. I don't think the -3 turnovers are going to happen again. Your thoughts?
I agree with everything that you said. Pretty in-depth analysis there too for a short one. But for Alabama to win again, they can't turn the ball over. I mean, yeah, it's been just handouts to the defense the past couple of weeks. And I think that if they want to make a run at the national championship, they're going to need to limit it and cap it at like 1, maybe 2 a game. But that turnover differential has to be close to even, if not positive. And if that's the case, I think they've got a better chance. Again, we saw that the secondary for Oklahoma got exposed. Ryan Williams needs to show up. I know
You need first half of the SEC championship, Ryan Williams.
Dude's just kind of taking a back seat this season, and just you haven't really heard from him. Now's the time, if I'm Ryan Williams, to make a grand entrance. Go for 160 and 2 touchdowns and just make it known that you're here. If you can do that and really get this team going, I think Bama will have a good shot in Norman and beyond in the Rose Bowl.
All right. Moving on. What is your pick?
Alabama.
Okay.
I think they get their revenge for earlier in the year.
And I think one of the biggest things is Ty Simpson healthy or is he not? So I keep seeing rumors that Ty Simpson has a really bad back injury. If that's the case, I think there's going to be more turnovers. I don't think he's going to be able to move and get away from the Oklahoma pass rush, or he's going to turn the ball over because he's pressured. Moving on, it brings me no joy. Sherrone Moore has gotten fired and arrested for a alleged relationship with staffer. Got arrested later in the afternoon. First, I want to say so sorry to all the victims. His wife and kids, the staffer who was allegedly being stalked, the recruits that kind of feel lied to because they may or may not have known something. And something had allegedly been, the university had allegedly been doing this investigation for a while. The players, all these things, the other staff on the football team. One person I'm not sorry for is Ward Manuel. I'm going to actually let you say anything about the firing. We'll talk about the coaching search in a minute, but I'll let you go ahead and say anything about Sherrone Moore. He finishes at 18-8 as the head coach of the Wolverines, by the way.
I feel like I know where you're gonna go, so I gotta kind of try and pick and choose what I want to say. I feel so bad for the family to have that happen and kind of be thrust. I don't want to say thrust in the scene because we haven't had to see close up shots of the wife crying, but I mean, unbelievable. And I just want to say, Dave Portnoy, I know we don't like calling out people, but the way that he's kind of just played that Michigan man shtick.
I'm gonna get to that. Well,
Okay, I'll let you
we're gonna
take
get
it.
to that
But
after the Ward Manuel.
if if the university knew about this prior to National Signing Day and swept it under the rug, tried to keep it quiet, and then it became to the point where they had to fire him after National Signing Day and the recruits had signed, I think the NCAA needs to open up an investigation. There may need to be recruiting penalties and subsequent penalties from then on. But unbelievable. I mean, just the fact that we're possibly seeing the athletic department cover up another scandal here. I know you're going to dive into the number of issues and problems that this Ward Manuel athletic department has had over his decade of a tenure. I think it was 2016 is when he started. So yeah, I'll just let you take it from there.
So first off, the school had been alerted prior to the alleged, because I believe the staffer reported the relationship on Wednesday, the 10th. They had been alerted prior that Sherrone Moore was dealing with mental health issues. Manuel fired him with no HR rep and no security. So that's already reckless, for one. Especially because of what Moore did afterwards. And I feel I'm going to hold that thought in a minute. Ward Manuel took over in 2016, the athletic director job. These are the 12 scandals that have happened under Ward Manuel. Brant Perry, arrested and suspension. He was a wide receiver. Gymnastics coach Rhonda Tane, I think is that name. I don't know how to pronounce it. She lasted only 4 days because she was one of the staffers that waited to report Larry Nassar. And had known about it for over a month. Juwan Howard's suspension struck a coach. 5-game suspension for the rest of the season and a fine. He got to coach in the tournament. The men's hockey coach Mel Pearson firing had a load of allegations for toxic work environment and treating female staffers badly, and among other things. Matt Weiss computer hacking downloaded confidential student info. Shemi Schemblacker filing. Allegedly liked posts that included transphobic and racially insensitive ideas. Jim Harbaugh recruiting violations during COVID. Connor Stalions stealing scandal. Their linebackers coach also got fired for destroying evidence relating to the investigation. Alex Ude firing. Football staff member allegedly tried to meet a 13-year-old girl. Greg Scruggs and Denon Robertson's departure. Both got arrested within a month of for DUI. Jerome Moore firing and arrest. Xavier Simpson, point guard for the school, crashed Ward Manuel's wife's car, lied to police about it. 12 scandals under Ward Manuel. The university does not have a president right now. They brought a firm in Chicago to investigate the athletic department. They had a meeting about it, about Ward Manuel's future. Looks like they're going to keep him depending on what they find. This Michigan man stick, it is the biggest bullshit because you don't talking about we hold ourselves accountable, we do the right thing. You try to cover up the Alex Ude thing and try to act like it didn't happen. Don't try to act like y'all do the right thing. You literally waited until after signing day for this to happen. Miss me with the Michigan man shtick. It is the dumbest shit I've ever heard. And no one, it's a virtue signal. It's literally what it is. The whole Michigan man shtick used to be cool when Ohio State was doing all these scandals, but it doesn't work anymore because no one trusts you. The amount of scandals you've had in the last 5 years is ridiculous. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. At least 6 scandals in the last 5 years in the athletic department. Miss me with the Michigan man shtick. It's not a thing. The virtue signaling of Michigan men do this. No, they don't. Dave Portnoy is literally trying to sue someone because they said something about him being a Jew. Like, come on, guys. Stop with the shtick. You're not honest. You're not anything. You cheat on and off the field, off the court, like everything. Miss me with the Michigan man shtick. I'm so tired of hearing it. And all the guys that they're connected to, I don't know if they're Michigan men or if they're going to become Michigan men. And we'll talk about that in a minute. I'll let you have the floor before I go on about this the whole shtick and virtue signaling.
Just keep rolling.
You ain't got anything?
No, you're on a roll right now. I mean, you're hitting all the points I would, so I'm just gonna let you keep the ball rolling before you lose your train of thought.
All right. So moving on, I personally calling for Ward Manuel to be fired. I said with Pat Kraft, I'm not in a position to call for people to get fired. Ward Manuel should get fired. He should have been fired 5 years ago. And the fact that he should have been fired 5 years ago for the Juwan Howard thing, should have been fired 2 years ago for the Jim Harbaugh thing, for the Alex Ude, should have been fired at least 5 times by now. The fact that he hasn't is beyond me. That's why they don't even have a president right now. And allegedly the interim president has the go-ahead from the Board of Regents to pull the trigger. He's not until the firm. I think the firm is going to find that they knew about this, or their investigation after they received the tip was to ask the staffer and more about the relationship, and they just asked the two. And then when they said denied the relationship, they're like, all right, investigation closed, case closed. Because people around the building had known about this for a while. A lot of alumni had known about this for a while. So if that's the case, or known something was coming, not specifically what he did, but known something was coming down for Sherrone Moore for a while. Going on to the coaching search. they they probably had a list. I don't know who's running it. I think it's the Board of Regents. I don't think Ward Manuel's running it right now. The main names I've seen connected are Eli Drinkwitz, Jed Fish, Kenny Dillingham. If they're already on Drink, I think they're too far down their list, and they need to just wait and get all their affairs in order. Fire Ward Manuel, and then get a coaching search going with the new AD. Kenny, I don't know if Kenny's leaving. I mean, this job is one of the ones you don't say no to, but with the firm coming in, I don't think. I don't know how attractive that is right now. It's kind of like the lane with the LSU thing. Excuse me, with the governor being involved and how it kind of scared everyone away for a little bit, and then you started hearing things pick up steam. I think it's gonna be similar to that. I think they should wait for the coaching search. I think Biff did a really good job in the first couple weeks of the season this year, and I think they should let Biff just coach throughout the year, give him an opportunity to get the job. But with Biff is everything I've heard from people around the program has been that they kind of saw him as a transition coach, not a guy. So they don't want to hire Biff as rip the interim tag off of him, and then end up with another transition head coach. I'm done.
I think, and you talked about the Michigan job being one of the ones you don't say no to, but right now it might be unattractive, and I completely agree. I think that a lot of these potential head coaches are wanting to wait and see, hey, how's this all going to shake out? Is the NCAA going to get involved at some point for potential recruiting violations? Are they going to dole out any punishments? What's going to be the case? Because they don't want to go in, be restricted recruiting wise, and kind of have their hands tied behind their back for X amount of time. So I think for the meantime, I think I agree. Biff might be the guy, but long term, they're going to need to find a better solution, and they might want to kind of start trying to figure out, hey, who's willing to come here if everything was all sunny and not problematic.
I think the whole thing about Kalen DeBoer ever going there was delusional. I get it. You make that call.
Unbelievable.
I get it because you do make that call. I would do the same thing if I was in their position. I would make that call, but that was never going to happen. For people actually thinking that was going to happen, Alabama's arguably a better job. They're relatively close. They're both probably top 8 jobs in the country. So, yeah, that's all I got on the thing. I will call for Ward Manuel to be fired, and it brings me to joy. All right, moving on. Tulane and Ole Miss. We'll kind of run through this quickly because we're kind of running a little bit late. Ole Miss beat Tulane 45-10 the first matchup. I think it's similar game plan that the Tulane's going to have for running the ball and stopping the run. The Tulane's got a 55 rush offense. Ole Miss has the 69th rush defense. Tulane has the 30th run defense. Ole Miss has the 31st run offense. So I think they're going to have to compact the game. Retzlaff has to be better. He was like 5 of 17, I believe, for 56 yards or so. I think it was something to that effect.
It was something along those lines.
So Jake Retzlaff has to be better in this game. He's got to be at least somewhat efficient, even if he's throwing 15 passes for only 100 yards. You got to be a little more efficient. Just trust your running back room. And they've got to get turnovers. They're number 8 in takeaways, 11 in turnover margin. I think takeaways and compacting the game are the only way that Tulane is going to win this game. If they can get the field position battle. For Ole Miss, they have the number 3 pass offense. Tulane is the number 122nd pass defense. there's going to be a lot there for Ole Miss in the pass game. Chambliss might have 800 yards in this game. Chambliss had over 400 yards rushing and passing in the first matchup. I think that was his first game starting as well. Ole Miss went for 241 rushing in the first matchup. Tulane went for 178. I don't think Tulane's can match up physically, head coach, no coach. Like, I think Ole Miss covers pretty easily in this game. And I think Summerall is gonna have one foot out the door. Summerall's an incredible ball coach, though. So
yeah, I think that's going to be interesting, but I don't know if that defense is going to hold up. They didn't hold up the first time. Let's see how many third downs Ole Miss even faced the first time.
I think they were like 4 of 11 or something like that. Maybe I think it was 4 of 11. Tulane was
6 of 15. Ole Miss was 7 of 11. Great Slurpees, by the way, but not good. Not good if you're giving up 7 out of 11 third down conversions. I think Trinidad is going to end up throwing for 350 plus, and it's not going to be pretty. I think this is not going to be a carbon copy of the first game, but it's going to be pretty damn close.
My biggest question is does Ole Miss end up pushing? Does Ole Miss get in a position where not Pete Golding is going to have to make situational decisions? I think that's the biggest thing. Or it'll be an interesting thing to see. Moving on. You got anything else for that game?
Nope.
Ole Miss covering?
Yep.
All right. So, I'm going to tell you, these teams, stat-wise, are very much carbon copies of each other. I'll show you. I'm going to tell you. Both these teams are top 20 in sacks and sacks allowed. Both in the hundreds of penalties. Both top 30 in pass offense and defense. Both bottom half in red zone defense. Miami is incredibly good at red zone offense. A&M, I believe, is right near halfway in the country. So, where are these teams going to differentiate each other? Well, I will tell you. Miami is top 10 in third down defense. A&M is 58 in third down offense. Miami has the 7th best rush defense. A&M has the 25th best rush offense. Miami held Notre Dame to 93 yards rushing. I think A&M gave up like 160, 170 to Notre Dame rushing. Miami is 12 in turnover margin. Texas A&M is 111th. Miami is 2nd in completion percentage. A&M is 84th. So, for Texas A&M, 38th in rush defense. Miami has the 77th best rush offense. They're number 1 in third down defense. Miami is 20th in third down offense. I think Marcel Reed needs to be dynamic. And A&M is 28th in 40-plus yard plays. Miami's defense is 2nd. I think that's going to be a very big key. I already talked about earlier how A&M's defense kind of gives up a lot of big plays. And Miami doesn't have a lot of 40-plus yard plays. I think they're in the bottom half of the country. A&M is 28th. Miami has given up, I think it's like only a couple of 40-plus yard plays. So, I think in this game, Marcel Reed really needs to use his feet. He needs to get away from the pressure of Ruben Bain. I don't think there's going to be a lot of room to run the ball in this game. So, for Miami, I think Carson Beck needs to continue being efficient. You've seen a lot of stat lines where he's like 20 of 26 and whatnot. I think they need to take advantage of the completion percentage, and Carson Beck needs to be efficient. I will take Miami to win this game.
I think the biggest thing...
I lied. I'll take A&M to win this game. I don't know what I was thinking. I'll take A&M.
You're taking Miami to cover?
Yeah, 3.5, right?
You are correct. Which means
Yeah.
it would be pretty even on a neutral field. Which I will say, you talk about it being the two teams being pretty much carbon copies statistically. I think the biggest thing that's going to play out is how does Kyle Field in the environment that Texas A&M can create affect the Miami offense, and how does it help provide momentum for the A&M offense and defense? Um, we've seen Miami play shaky at SMU, not a notably tough environment. Um, who knows? They might get rowdy down there in Dallas, but don't think it really compares to Kyle Field, regardless of the time of day. Um, and so Ruben Bain, I think, will have his day. He'll probably get a sack or two. I think that's just going to be inevitable. I've seen I think it was an A&M offensive lineman say like, "Oh, who is that?" or something, and you already know when you give them that bulletin board material, it never ends well. I've also seen Miami fans doing the same thing, going the other way. So I think it all going to cancel out. Miami's probably going to, or not Miami, A&M's going to win by 4 in a close game but entertaining one. I think it'll probably be by far and away the best game of the first round, but I don't think either team makes it past the second.
Well, I'll say this, and then we'll do bracket predictions. I think if Miami's able to keep Marcel Reed in the pocket and they force him to press, it's going to be a really bad day. I think turnovers, if A&M cannot turn the ball over, they will win this game. If Miami, it's whoever turns the ball over less, whoever has more, I think yards per carry is going to be a big stat in this game. I think yards per carry, who rushes for more, sacks, TFLs. I think all of those stats are going to be really big in this game, and who can stay ahead of the sticks more. I think if whatever team doesn't get behind the sticks, doesn't turn the ball over, will have the best opportunity, especially A&M because they have not been great on third downs this year. So I kind of gave a little more of an argument for Miami. We will do our brackets. We already have our picks for these games. You're with me on A&M?
Yeah.
All right. So we will go Oregon and Texas Tech. Who do you got?
Give me the Ducks.
I will take Oregon as well. Then Ole Miss and Georgia.
Georgia.
I will agree. And then you took A&M. Ohio State A&M.
Give me Ohio State.
I will concur. And then we both have Bama or Indiana.
Indiana.
I will agree. How do we have the same bracket through the first 2 rounds? Jeez Louise. What
Great
does that put
minds
us
think
at?
alike.
What does that put us at? Oregon and Indiana.
Give me the Ducks.
Bro, I will take Oregon as well. I told you this bracket, I think it was earlier today. Georgia and Ohio State.
Georgia.
All right, bro. Now you're just playing. Take Georgia as well.
Gotta get my SEC teams in.
I will take Georgia as well. Oregon, Georgia in the Natty. This is gonna come back to haunt us so bad.
Give me the Dogs.
Did you intentionally do that, or like? I had my bracket. I made my bracket yesterday. Did you intentionally do that? Because I literally told you my bracket earlier today.
I'll be completely honest. I wasn't really paying attention when you told me your bracket earlier today. I was being such a good worker in the office. So
You're lying. You're lying. Anyway, I will everything I want. Do you want to do a bracket of what we want?
Well, I mean, what I want can never happen.
Well, yeah, you're a Carolina fan. That's not going to happen. I don't know what to tell you. All right, I will go. The only pick I'll switch is Miami to beat Texas A&M. Are you switching any first round games?
Nope.
All right, and
So
then
I've already put my money behind a lot of these games, so
all right, and then are you changing any of your predictions for the second round? I will not either. Yeah. Are you changing your predictions for the semis
I'm not changing any of
for
my
what you
predictions.
want?
Because
No, for what you want.
No, because I kind of went off of what I want. I want Georgia to win the Natty because then it's like I can bring up the SEC talk again. So
Well, not very good chances if Oregon, Georgia, and Ohio State make it to the Natty, or make it to the Final Four. I'll change Ohio State. Ohio State beats Georgia. Indiana beats Oregon in my predictions, and I will take Ohio State to beat Indiana. I very much want an Ohio State Indiana Natty.
I think that's going to be boring. We saw
Yeah, maybe to the average, the casual, I just watch for points fan. I'm a Big Ten guy. I like the low scoring games. All right.
Did you not get enough enjoyment out of Army Navy?
That was a higher scoring than the Ohio State Indiana game.
17-6. What was the score of the Indiana?
13-10. I like good defense. You know.
Play of the year may have been Blake Horvath catching his own fumble. Keyword catching his own fumble.
Anyways, you got anything else?
No, that's it.
Hope you guys have a great weekend. Enjoy the first round of the playoffs, even though there's probably only going to be 2 enjoyable games on. Have a great weekend, and God bless.
Merry Christmas.